The surprise attack, the planet of Zeta-9, had always been a peaceful place nestled. In a remote section of the galaxy, it was a thriving human colony known for its beautiful cities and abundant resources. The humans had settled here decades ago. Building a strong and vibrant community life on Zeta-9 was calm, and the colony's defense systems were considered more than enough to handle any threat that might arise. But on this day, the peaceful world was about to be torn apart by an enemy no one had expected. Commander Sarah Stevens stood on the bridge of the starship Sentinel, gazing out at the calm space around them. The morning shift had just begun, and there was nothing unusual in the quiet hum of the ship. Sarah, a battle-hardened leader, had seen her share of conflict over the years, but she had always believed that Zeta-9 was safe from harm. The colony was far off the beaten path, and no one had ever thought to threaten it or so. She thought. Commander Stevens, a voice called from behind her. It was Lieutenant Mason, a young but skilled officer who had been with Sarah through many battles. "We're picking up something strange on the radar. It looks like a fleet of ships, but it's hard to identify them." Sarah turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. "What do you mean strange?" Mason's voice shook with unease. "They're not registered in any of our databases. They're moving too fast to be ordinary merchant ships or explorers. We think they might be pirates." The words hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. Pirates had never faced anything like that before. The colonies were supposed to be safe, isolated from the chaos of the galaxy, but now there was a fleet headed straight for them, and they didn't know who they were or what they wanted. "Are they close?" Sarah asked, already making plans in her mind. The defense systems were strong, but would it be enough? "They're about 10 minutes out," Commander Mason replied. "We've sent a distress signal to nearby colonies, but we don't have much time." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. She turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Harris. "Activate the planetary shields. Get our fighters ready. We're not letting anyone take this colony without a fight." The crew sprang into action, moving quickly but efficiently as Sarah watched the team prepare for what could be a deadly confrontation. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They had always been ready for threats like space storms, mechanical failures, or even the occasional pirate skirmish. But this was different. This was something big, something dangerous. The fleet approaching was not like any pirates they had dealt with before. "We're picking up more ships on the radar," Mason reported. "At least 25, Commander, and they're closing in fast." Sarah's heart sank. There was no time to waste. The Sentinel was one of the most advanced ships in the fleet, but it couldn't fight an entire pirate fleet alone. Zeta-99's defense system was strong, but it wasn't designed to handle such a large-scale assault. "Tell the colony to begin evacuation procedures," Sarah ordered, her voice calm despite the panic rising in her chest. "We're going to need every ship we can get to hold off these pirates. All civilians need to get to safety." The comms officer quickly relayed the order. Sarah watched as the defenders prepared for the worst, but even as they scrambled to get into position, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. This wasn't a random pirate raid. The way the ships were positioned, the speed at which they were coming, everything about this felt deliberate. Commander Harris called out, his voice tense. "I'm detecting something strange. The pirate fleet is forming a formation, almost like they're waiting for us to make the first move. They're not attacking yet." Sarah frowned. Why weren't they attacking? Pirates didn't usually wait. They attacked, they plundered, and they moved on. This felt different. It felt like they were waiting for something. She turned to face her crew, her voice firm. "They're waiting for us to act. They want us to engage first. We can't give them the satisfaction. Hold your ground. Let's see what they do." As Sarah spoke, the first shots rang out. The pirates had fired, and the colony shields flickered in response. A shockwave rocked the Sentinel, but the ship held firm. The pirates were here, and the battle had begun. "Brace for impact," Sarah shouted, gripping the arm of her chair. The first wave of pirate ships zoomed past them, unleashing a barrage of fire. The shields held, but Sarah knew it wouldn't last long. The pirates weren't just any ordinary raiders. These were well-trained, well-equipped, and ruthless. The kind of pirates who didn't just want loot, they wanted to destroy, to take, and to rule. "Send the fighters out," Sarah ordered. "We need to take down their smaller ships before they overwhelm us." Her crew reacted swiftly, launching the human fleet's fighter ships into the chaos. The Sentinel joined the fray, its weapons blazing as it returned fire. The sky above Zeta-9 became a swirling mass of explosions, debris, and flashes of light. The first wave of pirates was upon them, but Commander Sarah Stevens knew this was just the beginning. This fight was far from over, and the human resistance was just beginning to rise. The battle had only just begun, and the humans would need every ounce of strength and bravery they had to survive. The onslaught of alien pirates, the first encounter, the battle above Zeta-9, escalated in an instant. The Sentinel fought valiantly, its weapons ripping through the pirate ships with precision. Human fighter jets streaked across the skies, their engines roaring as they engaged the enemy, but for every pirate ship they destroyed, two more appeared from the depths of space. The pirates, led by their formidable commander Zorth, showed no signs of slowing down. Commander Sarah Stevens stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding before her. The colony was under heavy fire, and the pirate fleet seemed endless. Despite their efforts, the humans were losing ground. Commander, the planetary shields are weakening. Lieutenant Harris reported, his voice tense. We can't take much more of this. Sarah gritted her teeth. She knew they couldn't hold up much longer. The shields would fail soon, and once that happened, the pirates would have freed Ree to destroy everything. She had to think quickly, but her mind raced with worry. What if the pirates overran them? What if they lost everything? Lieutenant Mason, get me a full report on their fleet. How many ships do they have left? Sarah demanded, gripping the AR armrest of her chair. Mason's fingers flew across his console. There are still 20 pirate ships remaining, Commander. They're retreating into a formation, almost like they're planning something. Sarah frowned. What are they up to? Before Mason could answer, the comms officer, Lieutenant Daniels, spoke up. Commander, I'm getting a direct transmission from the pirate fleet. It's Zorth. He wants to speak with you. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Zorth, the leader of the pirates. She had heard of him. His name sent shivers down the spine of even the most experienced commanders. He was ruthless, cold, and strategic. If he wanted to speak, it could only mean one thing. He was about to make his move, put him through. Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. A distorted voice crackled through the speakers, followed by a deep, booming tone that commanded attention. Commander Stephen Zori's voice echoed, each word laced with disdain. I hope you're ready for the inevitable. Your pathetic resistance will crumble before me. Surrender now, and I will spare the lives of your people. Sarah's eyes narrowed. She could hear the arrogance in his voice. He thought he had already won. But Sarah wasn't going to give in. Not now, not ever. We will never surrender, Sarah said coldly, her words cutting through the static. You may have the numbers, Zorth, but you'll never break the spirit of humanity. We'll fight to the last breath. Zor's laugh echoed through the comms, deep and menacing. Brave words, Commander, but words are useless when the enemy is at your doorstep. You will fall, and your people will be mine. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a tense silence on the bridge. Sarah's crew exchanged uneasy glances. The pirates weren't here for a quick raid. They were here to destroy everything. We need a plan, Sarah said firmly, turning to her officers. They're expecting us to engage head-on. We need to outsmart them. Lieutenant Harris nodded. We could try if make it look like we're retreating, then turn back and strike from behind when they least expected. Sarah thought for a moment. It's risky, but it might just work. Prepare the Sentinel for a simulated retreat. We'll draw them in close, then hit them where it hurts. The crew scrambled to execute the plan. The Sentinel veered off course, as though retreating from the battle. The pirates, thinking they had gained the upper hand, followed the Sentinel's trail, growing closer by the minute as they neared. Sarah gave the signal. Now all fighters full throttle. The human fleet turned with precision, engaging the pirates from a new angle. For a moment the pirates were caught off guard, their ships disorganized and vulnerable. The humans launched their counterattack with everything they had, their weapons firing with deadly accuracy. Pirate ships exploded in a fiery display, their wreckage scattering across space, but the pirates quickly regained their composure. Zorth wasn't foolish. He had already anticipated this move. The pirate fleet began to close ranks, making it harder for the humans to maintain the advantage. "This isn't enough," Sarah muttered, her mind racing for another solution. They needed something bigger, something that would turn the tide in their favor if they couldn't break the pirate fleet. Soon Zeta 9 would fall. Just then, Mason shouted, "Commander, we found a weakness in their formation, a small gap in their lines. It's risky, but if we hit it hard, we could take out their flagship. That would be a huge blow to their morale." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Do it. Target the flagship. We have to take down Zorth." The Sentinel and its fighters darted toward the gap in the pirate fleet. They engaged the remaining pirates in a flurry of laser fire and explosions, making their way through the chaos. The flagship, a massive warship at the heart of the pirate fleet, loomed ahead. The crew of the Sentinel worked in perfect unison, focusing all their firepower on the flagship. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was their best shot at crippling the pirates. "Fire everything," Sarah commanded, her voice filled with determination. The Sentinel unleashed a torrent of energy at the pirate flagship. The ship shuddered as explosions rocked its hull. The pirates were beginning to panic, but just as victory seemed within reach, a new threat appeared. A massive pirate cruiser appearing from the shadows of the asteroid field, its weapons powered up, and it opened fire on the Sentinel, forcing Sarah and her crew to retreat. "This is far from over," Sarah muttered, her grip tightening on the console. The battle was far from won, and the true test of human resilience was only just beginning. A glimmer of hope. The Sentinel shook violently as it narrowly avoided the deadly fire of the massive pirate cruiser. Commander Sarah Stevens gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles white with the strain. The battle had taken a brutal turn. The pirates had the numbers, the firepower, and the element of surprise. Every move they made seemed to have the upper hand. "Shields are at 30%, Commander," Lieutenant Harris shouted over the chaos. "We can't take another head like that." Sarah's heart raced. The pirates' relentless assault had pushed them to the brink of collapse. The Sentinel shields were barely holding, and every hit from the pirates chipped away at their defenses. But Sarah wasn't ready to give up. She knew humanity's strength lay in their resilience and their ability to fight through the darkest of times. "Can we disable their weapons?" she asked, trying to think of any possible solution. Harris shook his head. "Not with the current firepower we have. The cruiser shields are too strong." Sarah's mind raced. She had been in tough situations before, but nothing like this. It felt like the walls were closing in and every escape seemed impossible. Zor's pirates were ruthless, and they knew exactly how to break their enemies. But then something caught her eye on the radar. "Mason, what is that?" Sarah asked, pointing at the screen. Lieutenant Mason looked at the blinking signal. "It's an old freighter heading straight for the pirate fleet. It's on an intercept course, but it doesn't match any known fleet signatures." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "A freighter? What's it doing out here?" Mason leaned in closer. "It's not a civilian freighter, Commander. It's heavily modified. It looks like it's armed for combat." "Is it human?" Sarah pressed Mason. "Not Ed. Yes, it's a human ship, but it's something strange. I've never seen anything like it before." "Is it a trap?" Lieutenant Harris asked, eyeing the screen with suspicion. Sarah considered this for a moment. "Could be, but we don't have much choice. If it's a trap, we'll deal with it. If it's something else, it might be the help we need." The Sentinel's crew worked quickly to analyze the freighter trajectory. It was headed straight for the heart of the pirate fleet, and there was no indication that the pirates had noticed it yet. Sarah felt a flicker of hope. This unexpected arrival could change the course of the battle, but she had to act fast. "Hit our fighters to support that ship," Sarah ordered. "Let's see if we can make a dent in the pirates' defenses." As the human fighters launched once again, Sarah's thoughts raced. Who was this mysterious freighter, and how had it found its way to Zeta 9 at such a crucial moment? Was it a fluke, or had someone known they were in danger and come to help? The freighter appeared on the radar once more, much closer now. It was a large vessel, far bigger than most civilian freighters. Its hull was scared and worn, as if it had seen countless battles. As the freighter neared the pirate fleet, Sarah could see the first signs of a battle. The pirates began to take notice. "Commander, Lieutenant Mason shouted, "The pirates are reacting to the freighter. They're not just ignoring it. They're attacking it." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The freighter wasn't just going to slip past the pirate fleet unnoticed. It was deliberately drawing attention to itself. The pirate ships began to concentrate fire on the newcomer, but the freighter wasn't backing down. It launched a barrage of missiles of the pirates, the explosions lighting up the void of space. The pirates were momentarily distracted, and in that brief moment of confusion, the human fighters made their move. "We've got them," Lieutenant Harris shouted. "The pirates are disorganized. We've broken their formation." Sarah's pulse quickened. The pirates were no longer in perfect sync. This was the opening they had been waiting for. "Focus on their smaller ships," Sarah ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to their fighters, and allow our forces to focus on the big targets." With the pirates distracted by the mysterious freighter, the Sentinel and its fighters surged forward. Explosions ripped through the pirate ships as the humans took advantage of the pirates' disarray. The odds were still against them, but for the first time in what felt like hours, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. The pirates were reeling and the humans were striking back. As the battle raged, the freighter continued its relentless assault on the pirates. It was clear now that the ship wasn't just a fluke. It had a purpose. It wasn't just here to distract the pirates. It was part of something much bigger. The freighter weapon systems were unlike anything Sarah had seen before, far more advanced than typical civilian technology. "Whoever's on that ship," Sarah muttered to herself, "they're not just running away. They've come to help." As the freighter took out one of the largest pirate vessels, Service Communications Officer Lieutenant Daniels turned to her with wide eyes. "Commander, we're getting a message from the freighter," Daniel said, hesitating. It's coming through now." Sarah leaned forward, her mind racing. The pirates had been thrown into disarray, and now it seemed like the mystery freighter had something to say. "Put it through," she ordered. The screen flickered, and a new face appeared on the screen. Grizzled Hart, and wearing a worn battle-scored uniform. The man's face was familiar, but Sarah couldn't place him at first. "Commander Stevens," the man said, his voice deep and confident. "I'm Captain Eric Vale. I've come to help." The name clicked in Sarah's mind. Eric Vale, a legend among the humans. He was known as a rogue, a man who had once served in the military, but had disappeared after a mission gone wrong. Now it seemed he was back, and with a weapon of his own design. "Captain Vale," Sarah said, a smile creeping onto her face. "Despite the chaos, you just might be our salvation." The pirate fleet was still dangerous, but with this new ally the tide had started to turn. Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope. Humanity wasn't done yet. The battle was far from over, but this unexpected arrival could make all the difference. The ultimate strategy. The tides of the battle had shifted. Thanks to Captain Eric Vale and his mysterious freighter, the pirate fleet was reeling. The chaos they had caused in the pirate ranks had allowed the humans to strike with greater precision. Pirate ships were falling one by one, and the Sentinel and its fighters were making headway. But Sarah knew that the battle was far from over. Zorth, the pirate leader, had not yet been defeated, and his fleet still outnumbered the human forces. The pirate cruiser, which had been a formidable threat, was still firing upon them with relentless intensity. Zor's flagship, a massive warship, remained untouched in the midst of the chaos. As much as the humans had gained, there was still a core of strength in the pirate fleet. "Zorth himself, Commander," Lieutenant Harris called out, his voice tense. "The pirate flagship is moving. It's heading toward the heart of Zeta 9's atmosphere. If they get there, they can destroy everything with their heavy artillery." Sarah's eyes widened in realization. The pirates weren't just after the colony. They wanted to obliterate it. If they reached the planet's atmosphere, there would be no stopping them. "We can't let that happen," Sarah said, her voice firm. "Prepare for a full-scale assault. We need to take that flagship down now." Captain Vale's voice suddenly came through the comms, calm and confident despite the chaos. "Commander Stevens, you have my freighter support. I'm already working on something that might turn this entire battle in your favor. I'll distract Zor's flagship. You take it from there." Sarah looked at the screen, her mind racing. "What are you planning, Vil?" "Trust me," Vil said with a smirk. "I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. I'll pull them away from you long enough for your forces to hit them where it hurts." Sarah didn't have time to question him further. She could only hope that this rogue captain knew what he was doing. The Sentinel readied its weapons, and the human fighters aligned themselves for the final assault. It was now or never. "All right," Sarah said to her crew, her voice determined. "We're going to strike hard and fast." We hid Zor's flagship while it's distracted. It's the only chance we've got. As the sentence surged forward, Sarah's eyes locked onto the pirate flagship on the display. This was the heart of the pirates' strength. If they could destroy it, the rest of the fleet would scatter. The remaining pirate ships would be nothing more than a nuisance. "Lieutenant Mason, target their power core. We need to disable their weapon systems immediately," Sarah ordered. Mason nodded. "Understood, Commander." Firing now, the Sentinel's weapons lashed out, striking the flagship with pinpoint accuracy. The pirate ship rocked violently under the assault, but it didn't go down. Zor's flagship was a massive fortress, and it would take more than that to it. Captain Ville's freighter appeared from the shadows, its weapons charging up. It made a sharp, bold move, flying directly into the path of Zor's flagship. The pirate ships, caught off guard by the sudden maneuver, turned to fire at the freighter. The sudden attack drew their attention away from the Sentinel. Now it was time for Sarah and her crew to strike now. "It's our chance," Sarah shouted. "Everyone focus fire on their engines." The Sentinel's weapons exploded into a storm of firepower. The pirate flagship shields flared. Struggling to hold under the assault, the fighter swarmed around, taking advantage of the breach in the flagship's defenses. Zor's voice crackled over the comms, full of fury. You dare challenge me?" Sarah leaned forward in her chair, unflinching. "This is the last mistake you'll ever make." Zorth, the Sentinel. Shots tore into the flagship's main engines, sending shockwaves through the ship. Sparks flew from the hull, and the massive vessel began to list to one side, losing power. The pirates scrambled, but their flagship was no longer the unstoppable force had once been. "We've got them," Lieutenant Harris shouted, his voice full of excitement. "The flagship's engines are failing. It's losing power." But just as they thought victory was within reach, the pirate fleet suddenly regrouped. Zor's flagship wasn't defeated. It was making a last-ditch effort to retaliate. The enemy ships quickly turned their guns on the Sentinel and Vale's freighter, creating a new wave of pressure. The battle wasn't over, and the pirates had one final trick up their sleeves. "Commander, we can't hold them off much longer," Mason warned, his voice shaking with tension. "We've taken down the flagship, but they're still coming at us. The fleet is closing in." Sarah's mind raced, but she knew they couldn't afford to back down now. "Vale," she shouted into the comms, "we need everything you've got. We can't win this unless you help us finish them off." Ville's voice came through, calm as ever. "Understood, Commander. Get ready for a full barrage. It's time to end this." The freighter, battered but not beaten, launched its final weapon, a devastating pulse of energy aimed directly at the heart of the pirate fleet. The blast was so powerful it sent shockwaves across space, ripping through the pirate ships. Like a storm, one by one, the remaining pirate ships were obliterated, leaving only debris in their wake. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the scene unfold. The pirates were retreating, broken and scattered. Zor's fleet, once a powerful force, was now nothing more than a distant memory. The battle was won, but as the dust settled and silence fell over the battlefield, Sarah knew that this was only one battle in a much larger war. The humans had won today, but the galaxy was full of danger. ERS, and the pirates were only one of many threats. "Commander, we've done it," Harris said, his voice filled with awe. Sarah allowed herself a small, victorious smile. "We've done it thanks to all of you, and thanks to Captain Ville." As the crew of the Sentinel celebrated their hard-won victory, Sarah knew that this battle would be remembered for generations. The human spirit had triumphed once again, but the fight was far from over. The universe was vast, and the resilience of humanity would be tested again and again. And when that day came, Sarah Stevens and her crew would be ready. The ultimate strategy. The final remnants of the pirate fleet floated in the aftermath of the battle, their shattered ships drifting helplessly in the vacuum of space. Commander Sarah Stevens stood at the bridge of the Sentinel, staring out at the debris. Her body was worn from the battle, and her mind still erased with everything that had just happened. But there was no time for rest. They had won the battle, that the war was far from over. Commander, we've won, Lieutenant Harris said, breaking the silence. His voice was a mixture of relief and disbelief, as if he still couldn't quite believe the pirates had been beaten. Yes, Sarah said, her voice distant. We've won, but only just. There's something bigger going on here. We were lucky today, but the pirates were just one piece of the puzzle. Her words hung heavy in the air. The pirates had come out of nowhere, and while they had been stopped, Sarah knew that something had been pulling the strings. Zorth wasn't acting alone. He had been after more than just plunder. It was clear to Sarah that a larger force was at work, and this pirate raid was just a precursor to something much more dangerous. Commander, we receiving a message, Lieutenant Denial said, bringing her back to the present. It's from Captain Vil. Sarah's thoughts turned immediately to the rogue captain who had turned the tide of the battle in their favor. Captain Vil had played a pivotal role in taking down the pirate flagship. But what did he want now? Put it through, Sarah ordered. The screen flickered and Captain Vil's familiar face appeared. He was leaning back in his chair, calm as always, but there was something different in his eyes, a seriousness that hadn't been there before. Commander Stevens, Vil said, his voice steady but urgent. You've done well, but we need to talk. We've got a problem, one I didn't expect. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. What is it? Vil paused, gathering his thoughts. I've been following the pirates for a while now. They weren't just after Zeta and Nine. They were part of a much larger operation, one that involves several factions across the galaxy. There's an alliance of pirates, mercenaries, and even rogue military forces coming together, and they're targeting human colonies. This wasn't just a raid, it was a test. They're preparing for something bigger. The realization hit Sarah like a ton of bricks. You're telling me this was just the beginning? Vale nodded. Exactly. Zorth was the first step in a series of coordinated attacks. They're planning to hit more colonies, and they're gathering strength. They won't stop until they've conquered all of human space. And if we don't act now, we could lose everything. Sarah clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. We can't let that happen. What do we need to do? We need to form an alliance. Vil said, we can't fight this war alone, but if we band together with other human colonies, we might stand a chance. The pirates won't expect us to unite, and that's our advantage. Sarah thought for a moment. An alliance, it sounded difficult, but not impossible. The humans had always been divided, each colony operating independently, but this was no ordinary enemy. It would take every ounce of strength, unity, and resilience for humanity to survive. How do we start? She asked, her voice firm. Vil's expression softened. I have contacts with a few other leaders across the galaxy. I can help broker a meeting, but you'll need to be there. You'll need to represent humanity's best chance at survival. Sarah's mind raced. An alliance wasn't just a simple matter of gathering a few ships and crews. It was about building trust, overcoming old grudges, and finding a common purpose. But Sarah had seen the strength of the human spirit. She had seen her crew fight against impossible odds. If they could pull this off, humanity might just stand a chance. All right, Sarah said, her voice resolute. We'll gather every ship, every leader we can find. We'll form this alliance, and we'll fight together. We won't let anyone take our future. Captain Vil gave a slight nod of approval. I knew you'd be the one to lead them, Stevens. I'll contact you soon with the details. Time is running out. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah standing alone in front of the view screen. The battle had been won, but the real challenge was just beginning. The pirates weren't the only threat they faced. There were others far more dangerous waiting in the shadows. If Sarah and her crew were going to protect humanity, they would need to unite, to stand together against the forces that sought to destroy them. Commander, Lieutenant Harris stood, breaking her thoughts. What's our next move? Sarah turned to face him, determination in her eyes. We reach out to every human colony we can find. We need to build an alliance, and we need to do it fast. The galaxy is about to change, and we need to be ready. The crew of the Sentinel knew what lay ahead. It would be a long and difficult road filled with uncertainty and danger. But if humanity could unite, if they could stand together, they would have a chance. They would fight for their survival, because that was what humans did best. They survived, they adapted, and they never ever gave up. The ultimate strategy had been set into motion, and it would take all of humanity's resilience to face the storm on the horizon. Sarah Stevens was ready for what lay ahead. The question was, with the rest of humanity, he ready to the final battle? The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparations. Commander Sarah Stevens had only one goal now: to unite humanity against the looming threat. The pirate forces were just one part of a much larger, far more dangerous alliance that was rapidly expanding. As each day passed, Sarah's thoughts were consumed by the daunting challenge of bringing together the scattered human colonies. But there was no time to waste. The pirates may have been beaten, but a much greater storm was brewing on the horizon. The Sentinel had traveled across the galaxy, reaching out to every colony they could contact. There was resistance at first, reluctance from some leaders who still held grudges or feared the risk of uniting, but Sarah's message of hope and survival was clear. Only by standing together could humanity hope to survive the oncoming war. As Sarah stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, looking at the stars outside, the communication signal flashed across the screen. It was a message from Captain Vale. He had been busy rallying support for the cause, and now it seemed the time had finally come. Commander Stevens, Vale's voice came through calm and focused. We've gathered what we could. The first wave of our allies is assembling. We've got ships from 3 other colonies, but we need to move quickly. The enemy is preparing for an all-out assault, and we don't have the luxury of time. Sarah's heart pounded. This was it, the final push to unite. Humanity had begun, and now they had to fight for their future. She turned to her crew, her voice steadied despite the pressure mounting on her shoulders. Get ready, everyone. We've got a fleet to lead. This will be humanity's defining moment. We will stand together, or we will fall alone. No one gets left behind. The Sentinel and its allies moved toward the meeting point, an abandoned space station where representatives from the human colonies would gather. The stakes had never been higher. If the meeting went well, they would form a united front, take on the alliance of pirates, mercenaries, and rogue military forces that was steadily growing in power. But if the talks failed, the consequences would be disastrous. Humanity would be fractured, and they would be picked off one by one. As they neared the space station, Service Comms Officer Lieutenant Daniels spoke up. Commander, we're detecting several enemy ships in the area. It looks like they've gotten wind of the Alliance meeting. They're preparing to strike. Sarah's heart sank. The enemy was already here. The pirates and their allies knew what was at stake. They had no intention of letting humanity unite. We don't have a choice, Sarah said, her voice sharp with determination. Prepare for combat. We'll defend the station and our new allies. We're not going to let them tear us apart. The Sentinel's weapons powered up, and the human fleet took position. Captain Vale's freighter was already in position, ready to fight. Ships from the other colonies formed a protective perimeter around the space station, their weapons trained on the incoming enemy fleet. Commander Lieutenant Harris said, his voice grim, we got a full-scale attack coming in. This is it, the final battle? Then let's make sure we give them everything we've got. Sarah replied. Lied. The enemy fleet emerged from the darkness, a massive formation of ships ready to tear into the human defense. Zor's flagship was at the forefront, its ominous presence casting a shadow over the battlefield. The pirate leader was back, and he was more determined than ever to crush humanity's last V. Prepared to engage, Sarah ordered. The first shots were fired. Explosions rippled through space as both sides clashed in a fury of laser ERs and missile barrages. The Sentinel's weapons fired with precision, cutting through the enemy ships. But the pirates weren't backing down. They were relentless, a tidal wave of destruction. The human fleet fought valiantly, but the pirates were overwhelming. Commander, the enemy flagship is heading for the station, Lieutenant Mason shouted. If it reaches the station, we're done for. Sarah's eyes narrowed. We need to stop it now. With the enemy's flagship closing in, Sarah made a split-second decision. She turned to her crew. Lieutenant Harris, target a flagship's engines. We need to disable it before it reaches the station. Harris nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. The Sentinel's weapons fired, unleashing a barrage of energy at the flagship. The enemy shields flickered as the shots hit their mark. The flagship shuddered, but it didn't stop. We're not going to make it, Harris said, his voice strained. We need something bigger. Just then a familiar voice crackled over the cons. It was Captain Vil. Commander Stevens, this is it. Vil said, his voice filled with resolve. I got a shot. I'm going to take out the flagship. Just keep them distracted for a few more seconds. Vil knows Sarah shouted. It's too risky, but Vil had already made up his mind. You've got your fleet, Stevens. I've got this. Trust me. Before Sarah could respond, Vil's fur broke off from the formation and made a high-speed approach toward the enemy flagship. The pirate fleet tried to intercept, but Vil was faster. He flew directly into the heart of the enemy's defenses, dodging blasts and weaving between pirate ships for a moment. Sarah's heart stopped. She watched in disbelief as veils closed the distance. Then, with a blinding flash, Vil fired everything he had at the flagship's power core. The energy surged through the enemy ship, causing a massive explosion that sent shockwaves rippling through space. The pirate flagship was destroyed. The battle paused for a moment, the enemy fleet stunned by the loss of their most powerful ship. The remaining pirates faltered, unsure of how to respond. It was the opening the humans needed.